All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Cross-platform as usual. I do see that the Rumble Rants is working again. Not sure if I did something wrong the other day or if that was a site glitch. So we'll be reloading that in a moment. We have 5 news topics to cover today. Of course, we've got the Highland shooting, obviously, and some news scuttlebutt about that. We also have the Dutch farmer protests and shortages now hitting the local stores here in Enschede in the Netherlands. There's no distribution center being shut down here, but there are shortages of certain produce. I took some pictures. Links in the description, by the way, if you want to follow along. I see NKFD on YouTube talking about Omar getting booed. Yeah, I covered that the other day, actually. That was hilarious. We've got Gavin Newsom and the fluff piece by CNN. They're really trying to get a Newsom versus DeSantis sort of thing going for 2024. We'll talk about the astroturfing. Although I covered it this morning, I did want to elaborate a little bit more on Bette Midler getting dragged as transphobic. And then, of course, Rubin Report getting suspended by Twitter, at least I believe temporarily. He's back on there now for defending Jordan B. Peterson, who refuses to re-enter the platform. He's just had enough of it. So we do have quite a few news items to talk about. Obviously, I'll be talking about super chats as well. You can send them if you wish. Rumble Rants is apparently working today. We'll make sure that we're live here, though, before we continue. Refresh and see if the stream begins. People are watching, so I'm assuming that we're live, but I like to check. Yes, indeed, we're live on Rumble. Morbidly a beast. Is Rumble working? I hate technology. Yes, it is actually working today. Thank goodness. We've got a million clanks. Spazman. Wait, shutting down 30% of the livestock industry is a bad thing? Who would have thought? Yeah, and keep in mind, for those Dutch farmers, some of them, they don't just farm animals. Some of them also farm crops. You know, you might have multiple fields. If you put, let's say, a couple hundred of them out of business, it's a huge amount of meat. It's a huge amount of produce. It's also a huge amount of land that the government would really, really love to be developed with houses. And that's really what this is about. It's not about fighting pollution. It's horse shit. And as far as the localized shortages, I don't care how long they drag on. I'll figure out a way to get through things. As far as my culinary needs, I do support the Dutch farmers on this one. Just think of how bad it'll be if they lose. If they're unsuccessful and the government still goes through with these plans, and you'll pay more for meat, you'll pay more for produce, it'll be more scant because a lot of farmers will be driven out of business. And you'll have more people in the population to feed anyway, because, again, the population is booming. That's just going to be used to make more medium density housing, which seems to be what the Dutch are inclined to create right now. There seems to be no willingness to admit that in a very small country with such a high population density, if you wish to have anything other than tourism and banking as an economy, you have no choice at some point to build up instead of out. And they don't want to do that. I think that they're worried that it'll spoil the landscape. So they'd rather have medium density. It's not very efficient when you have that kind of population density. Man of culture. Oh, you started the stream. I was rather enjoying contemplating the esoteric silence and the meaning of clank and the holy integer of 10.2. Michael Torres. Reminder, the Wisconsin governor looks like a diddler. I don't know. I think most politicians seem to. Most of them visited Epstein Island at one point or another, so it's probably not just a look-alike contest. Third man, with the long march of globalism making ground all the time, the WEF having their fingers in many governments, why are you so confident liberty will win? Well, you see the effects of it. People are beginning to fight back. I just wish that people in the United States were as inventive as the Dutch when it came to that sort of thing. Can you imagine if American farmers said enough is enough? And American fishermen? Boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be a fun day? 11.3 says Rico Cool. No, 10.2 is definitely the ultimate meme. I think Spoon Clank is the ultimate Sticks, Hex, and Hammer meme, though, and probably always will be. There is no other way to put it. I've got a spoon behind me for a reason. It comes from New Zealand, and it's Kelly Tarleton's, Kelly Tarleton's Underwater World, which may or may not exist at this point. I think it's from the 80s or 90s or something. Yeah, Tracker0011 on Twitch. Also, Omar got booed off the stage by her own. Yeah, you're I think the third person to mention that. I actually talked about it the other day in the live stream. It was really funny. She was on stage at I guess a Somali singing thing. They had a concert, and of course, a lot of the constituents there happen to be Somali Americans, and Elon Omar also is. So I guess she expected a standing ovation. Like, hey, I'm one of you. I'm really cool. I'm a politician with millions of dollars. Fucking clap for me. It was hilarious. Silver Kestrel. Thoughts on Nevada, New Mexico, and is that Mississippi or Michigan? I can't remember. Is it possible we could kick the Krats out of power in November 24? Yeah, it's definitely possible. In fact, it's likely. Although just because someone's not a Democrat doesn't make them good. I just look at John Corwin or Mitt Romney. There are plenty of Republicans that are dross. I've said that for a number of years, if you remember. Some people try to cast me off as being like I'm a Republican now or something. No, I'm just pointing out the obvious. The Democrats are, at the moment, the worst party by a long sea mile. Bong Donkey. Maybe the Somalis are starting to like America. Yes, putting them at odds with Elon Omar. She seems to hate it. A lot of people wish that she would just fuck off. She definitely shouldn't be in the House of Representatives because she's not representing anything but herself. Money Drip 6665. If we have the red wave and Trump is elected president again, would you expect massive Second Amendment wins and the abolition of the ATF? Keeping fingers crossed. Unfortunately, the ATF probably doesn't get abolished, although it should be. It's unconstitutional in its current inception. Any victories will come from SCOTUS. They've already forced a number of states to go and revisit their decisions based on the Bruin decision. You've got numerous lawsuits against other states that are pending. I haven't seen any update on if they're going to go after Vermont, though. They have the same MAG restrictions and so forth that California has. And I haven't seen the GOA or similar groups going after Vermont. I guess they figure because it's too small to worry about. Please do sue the state of Vermont. It'd be funny. The state of Vermont will be using my tax money to try to keep people like me less armed. Stabbin' Joe Scarborough. Thoughts on the demonstrations in your country? Yes, we will be covering the Dutch farmer protests. I support their protest. And I'll be covering it at the moment from the perspective of, yes, there are shortages of some supplies in the local grocery stores. The local Jumbo, the produce section, it's got signs up. They're in Dutch, so I can only read part of it. But to the effect of, oh, we're really, really sorry, but, you know, temporary inconvenience here. Sorry, there are no vegetables. There are no fruits. I did notice, by the way, I'll cover that when I talk about that specific issue. Because the first one, of course, is Highland Park. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, links in the description if you want to follow along. This one comes from Austin Peterson, AP for Liberty. He's talking about the Town Hall article. Highland Park shooter was known to law enforcement. Who called it? Well, I mean, literally everyone called it. So law enforcement knew that the Highland Park shooter was not necessarily a savory and mentally stable individual. It's funny because his parents say that they saw absolutely nothing wrong, and they would have, trust me, they would have told police if they thought that there were problems there. Hush, hush, wink, wink. Sure, they would have. So he was, once again, a mass shooter, was on the radar of law enforcement, and nothing was done. Now, I don't support red flag laws, but I do support looking into these cases and saying someone may be, you know, unstable. Maybe we want to look into this a little bit. Maybe there's evidence enough for some sort of investigation of some kind. Hey, they're writing terrorist manifestos online. We might want to have at least a chat with them. I would think that even if the police just fucking chatted with these people, half these people wouldn't go out and be violent because then they're like, oh shit, well, I guess I've been discovered. I better keep my nose clean and my head down. That could be just pie in the sky hopefulness, but I would think that at least some people would be dissuaded. As for the Highland shooter, he's nuts. He's quite clearly nuts. There may be or maybe not some level of political motivation, probably leftism, considering the situation of when he chose to massacre a bunch of people being a 4th of July parade. The idea that he's some sort of MAGA Republican is totally wrong. It appears that he stole a Trump flag and then was wearing it like a cape at some point, and people are proclaiming that that makes him MAGA. And there's another one where he's at a Trump thing on the corner, and he's dressed as Where's Waldo. That does not necessarily make him a MAGA populist, just to be clear. There are, however, reasons to believe he's a leftoid, some of which have been fabricated in the last 24 hours, by the way. For instance, the tattoo, the rose in hand tattoo, the Social Democrat sort of logo, that's not actually him. That comes from a Reddit post that's almost 10 years old. He would have been about 14 at the time. 14-year-olds typically do not have full beards, so that does not appear to actually be him. The Antifa logo on the other social media account, it appears that that was selectively clipped from a brand new account that compiled pictures of him from Facebook and then added that in, probably again to muddy the waters. And I'm thinking that's probably glowing stuff. And the idea is that you take something that's falsifiable, but it looks like it's going to hammer the point home. And people that are looking at this and not stepping back and simply saying, well, wait for the evidence to come in, but it is common sense. This obviously isn't some, far righter or something. He's shooting at the fucking 4th of July parade. We'll get distracted by the low-hanging fruit, which is the bait posting of the Social Democrat tattoo and things like that. And they'll post about that. And then other people can come in and say, well, this has been debunked. See, haha, all of your other points are equally useless. We can debunk this one thing, therefore your opinion is invalid. Unfortunately, cognitive dissonance kicks in, and a lot of Americans and a lot of people in the world will actually believe that. Michael Cricklow, have you seen Gavin Newsom's cringe ad trying to convince Florida residents to move to California? Lol, do you think he will run in 2024? Clank. We will be talking about Gavin Newsom. It is definitely cringe. I don't think anyone's going to want to move from Florida to a massively high tax state overrun by crime. Maybe a few people will. And I don't think that DeSantis, by the way, would give a fuck. Nick Clark saying debate anomaly. I already did curb stomped him. He rage quit and then he blocked me. And there was an offer by him explicitly of another debate. And he has apparently pussied out because there's been no update about that in I think about 2 months. So he quite clearly he doesn't feel like he's man enough to have that conversation. Probably because of the fact that everything that I said would happen economically is correct, and he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Mac, a few pints on me from a gun-toting redneck Christian. Keep shouting the truth. Never a bad thing. I won't use it on beer. At this point, I'll use it probably on diapers. The cat is singing out there. HF, Jim Brewer has a new stand-up calling out all this BS. I highly recommend. Jim Brewer is excellent, says Terrell Evans. I've never heard of him, but I'll have to look into him. Gameolitics, once again, leftists asking why we need an AR-15. I must have missed the bill of needs. Carry on and clank on. Yeah, it is interesting. Why do you need to use the internet? Manual printing presses exist. Why do you need all the other states? The original 13 colonies there when the 10th Amendment was passed, that should suffice, right? Why do you need forensic evidence in trials? The litmus test should be the way that trials were conducted originally in the 1790s, correct? See, the originalism argument only extends so far. Adam THM. JB Groomer will use this to pass California and New York gun laws here in Illinois, while continuing to ignore the war zone Chicago is every week like he did something. Yeah, weren't there more people killed in Chicago over the weekend than at this massacre? Somebody was posting about that. I mean, I believe it. I know there have been weekends that are bloodier. Nobody cares about that crime. It's an afterthought. It's never reported on. And that just goes to show when it's in a squeaky clean upper middle class white suburb, all of a sudden it's a national tragedy, especially if it involves an AR-15 or a similar rifle of some sort. If it's handgun related, gang related, and happens 20 miles south in Chicago proper, it doesn't matter what scale it happens on. Nobody gives a damn. Government of Illinois, the government of Chicago, the mayor, certainly the mayor's office with Lightfoot doesn't give a shit. The legacy media doesn't tell you about it. Why is that? It doesn't fit their narrative. How sad. Scott Foradora, Uganda found 12 trillion in gold. Upcoming U.S. proxy war with China. Your thoughts, Sticks. Also, I agree more than 2 cats is too much. Cats are great. Third cat is okay. No, I don't think so, because the problem is that people have to come in and invest in the mining tech in order to get most of the gold out, I think. I don't think that Uganda has the ability to extract much of it on its own. The good stuff. I see two political sides. Both acknowledge problems in America. One side wants to improve what exists. The other wants to destroy what exists. Yeah, that's not a bad point. You're not wrong. Fire burn. Sticks block streets of Netherlands. Yeah, I don't think that I can block the street. I don't have a tractor. That's the problem. Anyway, second link. This is my post, actually. I push some pictures up. You can see them for yourselves. I went to the grocery store and it looks post-apocalyptic in some parts of the store. Farm protests begin to have an effect on the produce in Enschede as fruits, veggies, chicken, beef, and milk are all in short supply. By the way, I did go back a few hours later. Most of the milk that was there was gone. So I'm glad that I got a couple of extra containers of it because, milk is kind of important for many dishes. Hopefully this puts pressure on the government to not screw the entire farming population. That was my post. We've got some leftoid. Where is it here? Let me see if I can find it. There's some idiot leftist that was having a problem with what I said. Yeah, Steph Hermans. All the produce is rotting away in the distribution centers blocked by those fucking farmers. And I told him kankerop because, I can speak limited amounts of Dutch. And then he's rambling about whether I can speak the Dutch language and shit like that and talking about exports. And I'm like, fuck off. Who gives a shit? I support the farmers because imagine what the alternative is. Here's what happens. Let's say the farmers lose. Government goes through with its plans. A lot of farmers will sell their farms. If I'm a farmer and I'm told that I have to cut my livestock by 30% because my emissions, well, then I only need 30% as much land. At the very least, I downsize. In some cases, if I have a smaller end farm, I'm not going to be able to make ends meet. Why wouldn't I simply sell that land to a very kind subdeveloper who I guarantee is getting his goddamn coat on already if the farmers fail, to go door to door to all these farms and say, hey, your little location here is rather attractive for condominium development or for, some other development. And we want to put stores here and shit. We want a parking lot. Yeah, we'll pay you 120, 130% what your land is worth. Otherwise you can go broke continuing to farm. Work your fingers to the bone 60 hours a week, make 30% less money, probably go out of business anyway, or you can just sell out. Well, we estimate that your land holdings here were 3 million euros. What the fuck would you do? You can retire at 40 on your family farm's property being sold. You can buy your country lot. You can still have a mini farm or something like that. You can still raise your goats and chickens and shit because you'd be fucking loaded. Have a home built. You can do that, or you can potentially go broke. Which one would you choose? I know which one I would choose if I were a Dutch farmer and that happens. Now let's say the farmers win. Yeah, for some time you're going to have shortages of certain goods in the store because they're blocking distribution. The fishermen and truckers have joined in. Private citizens in some cases are joining in. They're sparring with the cops that keep trying to infiltrate these protests with undercovers and getting their asses beat, which is hilarious, I suppose. If the farmers are successful, the government says, okay, whatever, then it's the status quo. You're a major food exporter, which also gives you the huge advantage of having lower in-country prices. What the hell is to lose with that? The reason why the government wants the subdevelopments is a person who buys the upper middle class row house or something, the reasonably nice townhouse, pays a lot of taxes. They're paying more than the farmers will be able to pay. Those are mainly, the meat is marked for export. This will not just impact meat. Most farmers don't simply monoculture. They don't just say, I'm a cow farmer. Hey, I'm a sheep farmer. No, they all have their gardens and shit too. You go out in the countryside of the Netherlands. We lived there briefly when we were in Pines, which is this tiny ass village outside of Franeker, way up in Friesland. It's a huge farming muscle up there. It's crops as far as the eye can see. When you look out into the fields, like if you're on a train, they're always elevated, the train, so that I guess they can't get flooded out. And you look out into the fields, you see cow here, pig there, chicken here, swans, by the way, and ducks and random shit. You see a lot of avian wildlife, all broken apart by canals. Just because they're broken apart by little canals 4 or 5 feet wide does not mean that only one farmer owns this plot. Then there's obviously someone else who owns the next one. Sometimes a single farmer may own multiple plots. Well, then you've got your asparagus, and the chickens are there, and the cows are here, and here's other fallow fields. You rotate the cows around. Here's, tulip bulbs and shit. That's the way it works in farming. It's not quite the same as the style you tend to get in like New England, where there's one cohesive property and all of the stuff is there, and the farmer tends to focus on one or two things. It's a little bit different in the Netherlands. It's also more efficient in many ways. You've already pretty much eradicated the use of pesticides on your crops. I don't know how they've managed to do this. You've got massively intensive farming, and now you're saying, let's dredge out that farmland. Let's take the good soil. Fuck it. We're going to bury it under concrete, and we're going to put people in there who will pay more taxes because it's better. It's not better. The problem is that the Netherlands government is betting on eternal growth, which is impossible in a small country, especially that's already densely populated. So they're saying, let's pack the taxpayers in, especially these relatively wealthy banker elites and people like that. We'll pack them in more and more. We'll get more tax money, and then we'll use that money to lessen the cost of the imported goods that we'll need when the farmland's gone. That makes sense if you assume stable growth. You don't have any more room to grow. Where are you going to grow? It's the Netherlands. It's smaller than most US states. Where the hell are you supposed to grow? You can grow up. You could get rid of all the little villages and just, replace the medium density housing with tenements or something that are 20 stories high. That would be more efficient. Some point it'd be so heavy it'd probably sink into the bog, but that'd make more sense than what you're trying to do. It doesn't make any sense, except if you only give a shit about money. So you don't care about the people. You'll just subsidize their cost. You'll be importing shitty stuff from Eastern Europe or something like that. Instead of it being made in the country, processed in the country, available to people in the country, it'll be made elsewhere. It'll be imported from elsewhere. And the government will offset the surcharge with a bit of that tax revenue, and people will eat less healthy food. It's been in a freezer for 2 weeks instead of being fundamentally fresh at the butcher's shop. So yes, I absolutely support the farm protests. I think it's a good idea. The good stuff. Dutch clankers should wear spoon and cup costumes during the protest. Yeah. Well, see, I'm only a resident, so I'm not going to join in any protests or something because it would be against my principles by and large. But I do support the basic concept, especially having been in the Netherlands. I enjoy the culture. I enjoy the way things go here in most ways. Maybe not the gun part, but because it's no guns. But generally speaking, it's a peaceable country. There's a lot of gardens and farms and stuff. I like farms. Why the fuck would you want to ruin a good thing? You got it better than you know. Viking Woman 1988. I was doxxed by Unicorn Riot for having an It's Okay to Be White Pepe avatar on my Discord account on Mr. Obvious's chat. Lame. I've heard of Unicorn Riot, I think. Who cares what the leftoids do? Just laugh at them. Laughing Dog. I don't like innocent people murdered, but the warnings about fear-mongering guns have been going on since the 1700s. People don't listen. Zim the Despot. The complaint about nitrogen runoff shows these people don't know anything about farming. I say that because nitrogen is a vital plant nutrient. Well, the other thing is, imagine that you replace the farm where, before you had cows pissing or chickens shitting or something, where you do have nitrogen runoff. But you replace it with a bunch of suburbia, which here means medium density housing, usually multiple families in the same structure. Do you think there's no runoff or emissions or pollution from the average home? Look at the amount of trash the average home generates. Yeah, that doesn't cause any pollution. None at all. Oh, it does. Number one, locally, but also it causes pollution when all of that plastic crap and stuff has to be exported for the expanded population from some third world country where 12-year-olds are the ones making it. It's NIMBYism. What Mark Rutte and his government are engaging in right now is NIMBYism, effectively. Out of sight, out of mind. You'll still have the same meat availability. It's just that it'll come from elsewhere. It won't be made locally because the farmers will start going out of business under that particular regulatory structure. Claudio Diaz, greetings from Brazil. Murder and crime are down here since the new president made it easier for citizens to have access to guns. Guns were basically banned. Bought mine already. Thoughts? Buy more and lots of ammo. Because it looks like you might have a socialist dictator next, so you might have to defend yourself against commies. The good stuff. With limited land, you have to conserve the space via cycle farming and similar methods. Keeping the organic matter in the topsoil is essential. Yeah, the farming practices here in the Netherlands are quite something. It's pretty impressive. Prez Brandon 46, Salty Cracker's cat crossed over. Rip Salty Panther. Yes, I saw that. Apparently his cat died. Somehow has become a meme out of something rather sad. Miles Kinslow. Hey, Sticks, wishing you well. The media has double standards on Chicago. A 5-month-old was shot and killed this past June. Seems like it's getting worse. Chicago can't get any worse. It's already hell. Nobody should live there. Everyone should leave. Some idiot will buy your property there for millions of dollars, even in the ghetto, probably. Professor Plaguebat, part of it is the carrot on the stick being promised by the WEF to engage in this self-destructive behavior. Yes, but it's not destructive to the elites. They get more money. It's only destructive to the population that the elites don't care about, including farmers. They see them as bumpkins. They see the fishermen, farmers, truckers. They're the little people, the blue-collar workers and stuff. They don't matter, right? They're just peasantry. Andrew Brown, do you think that we'll lock down again? I'm starting to hear murmurs of an attempt by the people I trust. Midterms are also near, so I can see it. There may be attempts to do so. They should be fought against actively. Mr. Bird, you inspired me to start growing fruits and vegetables for my parrots. Squawk! What can I grow in Southern California? You can grow AIDS in Southern California. Now, you can grow all sorts of shit down there. In that climate, get some birds of paradise going. Not just real birds, you need plant birds as well. It's very, very important. By the way, right now we're at about 3,000 viewers cross-platform, so roughly 10 Biden loser units. Yes. Now we'll go to the next story. This one's hilarious. This is an opinion piece on CNN by Dean Obadala, I think it is. Opinion, Gavin Newsom is doing more than crushing Ron DeSantis. He's releasing ads in the state of Florida telling people that, you know, DeSantis bad, guns bad. Hey, come to California, everyone. We believe in democracy here. I guess it's partially prefaced on Roe. This is an attempt. Keep in mind who Gavin Newsom is. He's the governor of California. Can I ask Californians? I know this is definitely rhetorical. I can't imagine many Californians are fans of mine, and those that aren't exactly living in San Francisco. Are you comfortable with the fact that the governor of your state is wasting time that he could be actually governing to snipe the governor of a state literally across on the other side of the country to try to attract people who are never going to move to the state of California? Do you think the average person who really is fucked up about what's going on in Florida even has the money to move to California? Have you seen the prices there? They're sky high. You have to live out in the boondocks to even have the possibility that the average person in the middle class, solid middle class anywhere else, would be able to move even to a fucking one-room cabin. That's not going to happen. It's a waste of money, and it's a grandstanding attempt. What I believe is that Gavin Newsom really is hoping that Biden steps to the side so that he can run in 24. He may, in fact, you might judge him to be the Dem frontrunner at this point. This is a clear strategic move. Would he make a good president? No. Would he be likely to win? Hell no. Most people in the country have rejected the kind of crap that Gavin Newsom stands for. When they look at the French Laundry incident where he and his friends drunkenly were cavorting around with no masks or social distancing at the height of the lockdowns, that might be a little bit of a sticking point. When they look at California's enormous tax rates, when they look at its constant environmental problems, its crime issue, and all of the other things that happen in California, that might be a little bit of a problem. Ultimately, if it were Newsom versus DeSantis, DeSantis would mop the floor with the dude. No, hands down. There'd probably be a clean sweep. Trump would wipe the floor with him. Fucking Mike Pence would probably wipe the floor with Gavin Newsom. But ultimately, Gavin Newsom, between name recognition and having somehow less baggage than many of the other Dems qualified to run, would be near the front of the pack. I think Pete Buttigieg would be a better idea. I think he's probably, I hate to tell you this, but Pete Buttigieg is the sane man in the room of the Democratic Party. He's sane enough to keep his head down and weigh in as little as possible on any issue because he knows that the current administration is tarnished. And all he's been is transport secretary for a year and a half, and before that, a one-term mayor of South Bend ass of nowhere. He would be front runner as far as electability, which is hilarious. The Democrats don't really have but fuck anything. Benedict Anders, Sticks, what are your thoughts about the upcoming holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas with inflation? Do you think retail businesses will go under? I think that it's going to be a very expensive Thanksgiving in which people will be living like the fucking Cratchit family. And as far as Christmas, bah humbug, yeah, people won't be affording very much. There'll be a few less toys under the aluminum tree this year. Jared Stevens, how much do we need to pay for you and Razor Fist to have a boxing match? I don't know. I don't know how much he would cost for that. It'd be a fairly large sum of money, though. Would be kind of fun, though. I'd have to get corrective eye surgery first, though. You know, you get punched in the glasses a couple of times might be a problem. And he only wears his for show, so I'd be at a little bit of a disadvantage. Let's see. Eric Hecker, Scomets. Yes, scommeting is apparently the new thing. Or scrometing. Screaming and vomiting. That's what'll happen if you smoke a pound of weed a day for several years. Then you might get to the point where you're a little bit fucked up. Did you know this? I didn't know this. I don't know. I was told that weed had vitamins in it and shit. That's the new meme from the drug war. Yes, I understand that it is actually an older term, but they're trying to repopularize it to attack legalizing marijuana. I think that the leftoids are doing this, and it does appear to be mainly liberals doing this. I think they want to take it off of the plate because they're worried. There was an article last month that said that the worst possible scenario is the Republicans steal marijuana legalization as an issue. So I think that they're preemptively trying to muddy the waters to make it unpalatable to do so. I think they're worried about that. Also bring in a lot of tax revenue since the states refuse to just decriminalize. Lance Corporal Veteran, I'm companion gardening on a terraced hillside. Corn, peas, beans, cucumbers. Any tips? Lots and lots of azomite. Get azomite off of eBay if you can find it, the micronized version, of course. It has many trace minerals that keep plants strong. They were more resistant to disease if you feed them a bit of azomite. Really good on cucumbers. Shit, you should have seen the last round of garden updates that I did several years ago. It was monumental. Peppers love it too. My tomatoes were like bushes, and they weren't meant to be as big, I think, as they got. Started rotting off the vine, couldn't even pick them fast enough. Alexander Emelianov, what's the possibility of Michelle Obama running in 2024? Could she defeat Trump or DeSantis? I don't think she's likely to ever run for office. She has effectively ruled that out. As far as could she win, no, I don't think that she could. Another reason she'd probably sit it out. Some people are thinking Youngkin might run. Again, he'd be crazy to do so. You get elected in Virginia, you've got that powerful position in a really, really critical state. You can get politicians on the federal level to suck your cock. Why the hell would you want to give up the job? That's also why I think DeSantis is reluctant to run. I don't think it even has to do with, hey, I'll stand out of this of the way because I think that Trump will beat the shit out of me. I don't think that that's even the major consideration. It's just the minor consideration. The major consideration is you're the governor of Florida. You're guaranteed re-election. You're in one of the most critical swing states. The RNC will suck up to you. You can get all sorts of favors. Do that for a couple of terms. Grab up all the favors. Here, you'll endorse me in the future. No. I'll give you what you want, but you'll endorse me in the future. I'm not giving you a choice. You get the favors in Clinton style, and then you run. And all of a sudden, 100 different people have endorsed you on day one. And they think that you're a great guy and you've never done anything wrong. That's what Youngkin should do. That's what DeSantis should do. Newsom appears to be jumping the gun. I don't think that he actually has the capability. He's in a solid blue state. Nobody needs to suck up to him. Nobody needs the endorsement. Nobody gives a shit if Gavin Newsom endorses them because it's a far blue state. This is why people from competitive states like Florida or Virginia, they make potentially in the future better presidential candidates. This was a disadvantage for Trump. He was mainly a New Yorker. Now he's more of a Floridian, which gives him a distinct advantage as well. But no, I don't think that Michelle Obama, I don't think that would be a good candidate to run. It would look dynastic. It would get compared to the Bushes and the Clintons anyway, and I just don't think that it would work. David Drios 2019. Newsom hated on Twitch. Newsom hated his mother because when he was younger, his mother tried to placate her bizarre son by telling him, Gavin, it's okay to be average. That didn't sit well with Gavin, being the raging narcissist most politicians are. And Gavin embarked on his journey of overcompensating and overachieving for what is clearly his staggering mediocrity. His mother was correct, and Gavin probably enjoyed killing her. I think that's apocryphal, but yeah, I mean, yeah, take one look at the dude. He's obviously not completely there. I'm just looking through some comments on Rumble as well. WGene45, Newsom could pull the 3 a.m. win. I don't think that Newsom could do it. I mean, his in-state advantage is a non-competitive state. He hasn't set himself up to get all those favors in. The COVID response, especially if he were running against DeSantis, I think would destroy his campaign. But then again, in the Dems, if Biden steps aside, there'll be a primary. Trump won't have to worry about a primary. He'll have half the states just call the primaries off and allocate their votes to him anyway, which means he wins effectively if he announces. That won't be the case in the Democratic side unless it's Joe Biden or potentially Kamala. If Biden steps aside and says, look, I want Kamala to be the nominee, I trust her, VP, blah, blah, blah. I guess there's technical enough pseudo-incumbency there that maybe some Dem states would cancel and just say, fucking let her do it. I think she would lose by a huge margin. Aquafan. Central Florida here. Been very successful with peppers and herbs. Tried to help my parents start seeds. Tomatoes and herbs unsuccessful. Maybe because they're 1 block from the beach, salt air and such. Yeah, soil is probably wrong. You might want to get a pH test for that. It's probably contaminated with salt. You need raised beds. You probably have to container garden. That's why, even though it'd be kind of fun to have a dock and shit, I don't think I would want to live on the beach unless it were a lake. You know, if it's on like, you know, Lake Dunmore, Lake Champlain, Lake Bomazine, like in Vermont or something, you know, something like Lake Winnipesaukee, that'd be okay. You know, you have a boat launch, you have a little pirate ship and shit, have a canoe, get to go out fishing, you know, in the 2 months out of the year that it's not frozen over. Here in the Netherlands, getting a boat would be a real good idea. It's probably the easiest form of transit as long as it's fairly small. If it's capable of going under the bridge without the bridge having to move and you wait for it, then it must be pretty convenient and traverse the country in a couple of hours. The soil additive green sand will turn sandy soil loamy. I haven't heard of it. I'll have to look into that too. I'm getting my gardening mojo back into me. I have been trimming up the plants outside and fiddling around out there as much as possible. Because, I mean, as you can probably fucking tell, I really love plants. I want gardens on 2 continents. I want a garden here in the Netherlands and one in the United States. Because the climate here is warmer. Less hot, but warmer for longer in the year. Even though they get less sun. I don't even know how that works. Shore, coastal, I guess. Waffles Sensei, happy Freedom Month, Sticks. Choose Freedom Month over MAGA Month. Better optics for leftists to join in on the community building. But leftists don't believe in freedom. So, yeah. They believe in authoritarianism. 100%. We'll go to the next news item. We've got Bette Midler here. I covered this morning, but it gave me such a smile. I figured that I would cover it again just on the live stream just for shits and giggles. Bette Midler, as you know, actress and craptivist. Ancient at this point, I think literally elderly. She's a big-time Trump derangement syndrome sufferer. Half of her tweets are Trump this, Trump that, January 6th committee. The other half generally is even less coherent somehow. But on this one, she kind of gets it right. This is Bette Midler. Link in the description, archived, of course, on Twitter. Women of the world, we are being stripped of our rights over our bodies, our lives, and even of our name. It's funny how she pivots from, obviously, Roe v. Wade to this part. They don't call us women anymore. They call us birthing people or menstruators and even people with vaginas. Don't let them erase you. Every human on earth owes you. Yeah, I mean, a woman gave birth to every person who exists, so I guess you're right. You don't owe women in general. You only owe your own biological mother, just to be clear. She's the one that actually did the birth giving. I mean, she's not wrong. There are leftoids out there, like fourth waivers, that do want to erase the very concept of womanness because it's inconvenient for the T in the LGBTQ thing. And so they seek to muddy the waters and make that highly subjective. The fact is, though, women do exist. And she's not wrong. J.K. Rowling ran afoul of the same thing. Look, again, go to the archive or go to the live page and clank along a little bit and meme it up. Now, look at some of the responses here. Fucking let me Bette, when we use those words, we're including trans men and non-binary people who are also impacted by this new ruling. I don't know how. I'm sorry. I'm just not seeing it. We're not erasing women. We're including those who are forgotten. You're forgetting about womanness, but okay. Again, J.K. Rowling has been effectively cancel cultured by these people. Did you see what Emma Watson, that crazy bitch, decided to say? Well, I would be in a new Harry Potter movie, but only if J.K. Rowling isn't involved with it. Yeah, the person who actually wrote the fucking books that literally made your entire mediocre career. Throw her under the bus. Because she's a fourth waver, and J.K. Rowling, she's a bit older, so she's a third wave feminist. She understands, hey, you can have women's rights or you can erase women. You can't really have both. This doesn't make any sense. You don't have to hate anyone or ridicule their lifestyle in order to comprehend the basic concept here. Yeah, by the way, I love seeing it. I think this is a zoomer. When did the term grown start coming back into parlance among young people? Because when I hear grown, I think of the 80s or something like that. I think of Gen Xers. I think of some fucking Valley girl with, too many bungees in her hair and Los Angeles and shit like that. I think of like Breakfast Club when I think of the term grown that's actually unironically used to express something and isn't just a self-satirical, outdated reference. Grown. No one is erasing the word woman. These terms are being used to be more inclusive. I thought you stood up for LGBT plus people. Again, which acronym is it? There's LGB, LGBTQ, LGBTQI, LGBT plus, which is this one, LGBTQ plus. There's one that has an A in it, I think. I'm not exactly sure what the fuck is going on anymore. And I guess this makes me outdated. Much like Bette Midler is now a right-wing racist, according to these people. Yeah, better. Birthing people is an inclusive term. No, it's a term for women. Women give birth, just to be clear. Including if you believe in the non-binary nature of gender. Well, someone has transgendered, but they still have a womb. They still have a cervix. They've just decided to take hormones, or maybe they've had partial bottom surgery or something. Well, they still have a womb and ovaries. What else am I supposed to refer to this as? Not only women menstruate, give birth, or have vaginas. You know what? At some point, it just becomes self-satirical. It's just a fucking Jesus Christ. Some people really should not weigh in on biological issues or political issues. Some people probably shouldn't be permitted to vote. I think that the founders would have considered them to be lunatics, and lunatics were never allowed to vote initially. Till we got rid of asylums, then all of a sudden the lunatics began running the asylum, which is DC, and hence part of the problem we're in now. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Newsom's glaring baggage is he's Pelosi's nephew. I did not know that. Doesn't surprise me, though. Apple didn't fall far from the very old crooked tree. That mysterious stranger. It's funny that Newsom is attacking Florida on guns when Florida is one of the worst red states for them. High rate of red flag law usage, open carry bans, etc. They think guns equals Republican. That is true. DeSantis was one of the first to cuck on red flag laws. Another reason why I'd be more skeptical of him. The Spence Fencer. If I send bigger money, will you promise to buy a book from Robert Seffer, a cult writer with money? You ain't legit till you read one or two contemporary occultists. No, I won't promise that because I'd have to look into the person and what their basic views were before I judged it worth my time. Also, right now I'm editing a new work. I have decided to go back to editing temporarily, crank another like 5-10 works out while I'm also doing other literary work, because it's a little bit easier for me to fit it into the schedule when I'm live streaming. And I have a feeling at least through midterms, I'm going to be live streaming massively, like pretty much every day. So, Cindy Jones. Putin offered South African farmers 1,200 acres free to grow food in Russia. White Boer farmers murdered by the hundreds. What would it look like for U.S. farmers to say enough? Raising cattle in Texas. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Although you got to understand, if you're getting farmland in Russia, it's not exactly the most arable chunk of land you can get. 1,200 acres is a lot. But then you also have to live in Russia. There could be some malavailability of certain resources. And you still have a highly centralized government there. You know, the fact that it's lucrative right now because the fertilizer's cheap and interior and so forth doesn't mean it will be that way next year. This is a problem with centralized systems. The U.S. is moving in that direction. It's a whole fucking problem. Aquafan, I love gardening in Florida. I grow year-round. No seasons. Yeah, but you can't really grow the cooler weather crops. You'd need like a cooled-off hoop house or something, probably. Let's see. There are too many chats. I can't get through them all. So yeah, Bette Midler is now far-right sexist. Current, A equals autism. They are consuming them. It's horrible. Graf von Tyrol. Well, look who the cat dragged in. Crosby, Stills, and Nash are back on Spotify. Yes, I will be talking about this tomorrow in a main. Joe Rogan has won. All he had to do was outlast the leftoids because eventually their anger wears off. They're very low attention span. They're all using TikTok. So, you know, at this point, their attack lasts 5 minutes at most. Yes, a bunch of people that left Spotify saying Joe Rogan spreads COVID vaccine disinfo. We refuse to be part of the platform. They thought that he would get canned from Spotify despite being by and large by far their largest creator. And they said, fuck you, and you can go to hell, basically. If I were running Spotify, I wouldn't let them back on the platform. They want more money. I'd say, no, sorry, you left the platform. I don't see why we should let you back on. Who needs you? Yeah, the 10 people that care about your music. You think the average Gen Zer knows who the fuck you are? They know who Joe Rogan is, though. You made your bed, lay in it. Go and use a different service. Get on Sirius or something. Kyle Miller, when you go on Timcast, can you time it to be on the 666th episode and whip out the 10.2? Well, I don't know what episode they're on, so I don't know how long I'd have to wait. Zero Fan Mab on Twitch. Joe Rogan is Spotify's meat and potatoes. Leftoids and delusional former rock stars are mere appetizers. Most of them aren't even appetizers. Again, how many people even know who Crosby, Stills, and Nash are that are under 70 years old? Most of them probably don't. They're an age-old fucking rock band. It's like all of the others that said that they were going to call it quits. Nobody cares about them. All of them combined is a tiny proportion of the traffic that Joe Rogan alone generates. And there are plenty of people that would have left Spotify if Joe Rogan had been kicked out, that would have been amplifying it even further. Spotify would have lost, uncountable amounts of money. They're lucky that Joe Rogan deals with the fact that somehow in the contract they're allowed to redact old episodes, and they've already deleted dozens of them. Yeah, Neil Young was one of the others that left. I don't think that he clambered back on. I guess it's because he's got so much money. He's more well off than Crosby, Stills, and Nash, so he just decided to commit career suicide and say, fuck it. They need to get Morrissey on there. That'd be funny. Morrissey and Johnny Rotten and people who actually have a working brain cell. It's being pointed out by Fireburn over on Rumble. She will apologize in relation to Bette Midler. Yeah, I don't think she's apologized yet, but if her publicist says it's a good idea, she will. Not that she needs the money or anything like that. I mean, she can shitpost on Twitter all day. By the way, I always wonder that. If you become like, a top level celeb, you got 15, 20 million in the bank account, you get your nice home and stuff, you can do whatever you want. You buy a car tomorrow in cash, nobody gives a shit. If you get to the point where there's really no more mountains left to climb, why don't you just become a shit poster and use your audience to make people feel sad, angry, and uncomfortable? That's what I would do. If I had fuck you money, I'd be way more edgy. If I got somebody sends me $1 million, I'll just say fuck it. There'll be definitely some off-color humor being made. Well, you banned on half the platforms, but who cares? You're rich. It doesn't matter anymore. If I were Bette Midler, I would be I'd be posting videos of animals peeing on each other all day, and I'd be laughing my ass off. I'd do fucking weird shit. I'd deliberately make shitty food. Maybe do a bulimia special and just start puking on furniture, stuff like that. Riptor. I live in Chicago and it's getting worse. More unsavory people from South Side moving north and creating problems. Feels like reverse gentrification. There's a term for that we're not allowed to use on mainline tech sites. I do find it funny when people talk about gentrification. Gentrification is the idea that people that have moved in, they're not stealing cars and selling crack and stuff, and this is supposedly a bad thing. It is usually used in an explicitly racist context. It means that too many people who are white or East Asian have moved into the old neighborhood. It's really, really strange how this is an acceptable usage among people who are supposedly progressive. Proud American, lol. Sticks would be a great troll. Oh, I already am. I'm the destroyer of ICQ chat. I spent years and years ridiculing and hazing them. It was some of the best times I've ever had in my life. And I'm still at it too. People still get pissed off. Every other day somebody blocks me on Twitter after I kick their ass. I find it hilarious. Yeah, imagine if Bette Midler goes completely crazy. Oh, and she teams up, by the way, with J.K. Rowling. And they just start shit posting. And all they do is they post diarrhea jokes all day just to make people think that they've completely flipped the lid. And meanwhile, they're just laughing through their 5th champagne of the day. It's like, fuck, I've got all this money. I'm old anyway, so I'm just going to spend the rest of my life drinking heavily, smoking weed, and making people on Twitter feel uncomfortable. That would be so great. Then they'd redeem themselves. Shark Dentures, I agree. I win the Powerball jackpot tomorrow. I become the biggest asshole troll in history the following day. Just make sure to share the love with your favorite creator. Then I can join in the fun. That would be hilarious. Yeah, if that ever happens, if I become like filthy rich or something, I'll stop doing productive things and I'll just deliberately drag everyone else down like a crab in the bucket. I do joke. I mean, I like doing the constructive creation thing, but at the same time, shitposting is fun, but you have to mince your words. Anyway, we'll go to the last post here. Jack Posobiec replicating this. Breaking, Rubin Report has been suspended from Twitter for defending Jordan B. Peterson. This was over the Ellen/Elliot page dead naming thing. Who gives a fuck? What is dead naming? Who gives a shit? This is explicitly against Twitter's TOS. But even in the case, as with Rubin, even in the case when you're just replicating a story, criticizing it, and reporting on it, even then it is considered actionable. Twitter is full of XXX fucking hardcore porn. It's full of scams and bots. It's overrun with scammers. Crypto scams and fucking investment scams and all sorts of fucking loan sharks. And it's a crazy place. It's a dumpster fire. But you'll get banned if you dead name someone. Well, who gives a shit what you call them? If I call someone asshole, why should that be actionable either? So yeah, Rubin Report was temporarily suspended. Jordan B. Peterson is permanently gone, I think. I think he said that he's not willing to get back on. Although we'll see if that actually lasts. He obviously likes shit posting as well, almost as much as I do. Let's see here. Gorgeous Mayhem. Met a leftoid that was black-pilled about the Supreme Court rulings. He thought the court would bring back slavery. Don't be black-pilled like leftoids. Yeah, don't act like a leftist. I see so many black-pilled people, even when things are going their way, they think they're going to balkanize and be in the next Byzantine Empire. And then we'll collapse into the Dark Ages. We're all going to die anyway, so I'm not going to go vote or improve myself in any way. Yeah, a good way to make a self-imposed prophecy. Slug to the chest. Here in Northern California, we too are getting this reverse gentrification. I moved out of the big city only to start seeing big city stuff here. Part of that's probably due to urban sprawl. That has to be a big thing in California. Peterson said he will not delete his tweet and they can fuck off, says the concrete cowboy. Yes, I know. He's saying basically screw you. However, he may in the end decide to delete it and go back to shit posting. It's also the possibility once Elon Musk takes over, he could just say fuck it. I would like to see that sort of rule removed from Twitter and from every reasonable website. You should be able to use whatever pronouns you want. It's not harassment. It's not bigotry. It's not hate speech. Nobody really cares other than the idiots that run sites like Twitter. Most of the average people that would be dead named don't care either. It's quite clear. I have a feeling that Page was not the individual who flagged this post. Just saying, I think that it might have been some craftivist out there Who'd have thunk that could ever happen? Really, I mean, Twitter already has hardcore porn and stuff like that on it and so many scams that it chokes the website. Why do you even bother with the rest of the TOS? I would just unban everyone who wasn't blamed for a crime. Say there are no TOS anymore. Say whatever the fuck you want. I don't care if you spam all day, and just let the site collapse in on itself. It'd be better. At least it would be briefly fun. It'd be sort of like ICQ towards the end. Towards the end, the moderator team got sacked, but for about a month, the site was still active, and the spam bots weren't fully functional. It was chaos. It was mayhem. All of those bots that had been suppressed for so many years started flooding in on every page. Didn't even matter if they were listed. Nobody could even talk on half the pages because they were being spammed so hard. Boy, oh boy, I wish that I could relive those days just for another day. Why you came? Sorry, Nile.5. If dead naming is a woke sin, does that mean transitioning is murder of your former self? Yeah, kind of. I wonder, has anyone ever, like, they transition, like, you know, the trans or something. Have they ever, like, held a mock funeral for themselves, like the old self or something? That'd be one of the least cringy things involved in the process. Anyway, enough about that shit, because Ruben's back and Peterson, he says, fuck it. So, you know, who cares? Defender of the week on Rumble. Elon, if he buys Twitter, will eventually censor. He's a lefty, gang. I don't think that he's a lefty. I think that he's more like a neoliberal sort. His opposition to censorship is opportunistic. I do understand that. It's not a principled stance so much, or at least not in the complete sense. And he's never said that he's against all forms of censorship. But it can't be better than what Twitter already is. It can't be more censored. It would take years and years. Even if he steadily censored the site more and more, it'd take years to make up the lost difference. So the site would become briefly more useful. Right around the time of the election, by the way. Kenthis15. Peterson immediately released his ads for the Daily Wire Plus show after being banned. He wants to be banned. It supports his brand. Yeah, there was definitely an opportunistic timing to it, which could have been why the post was made. However, it shouldn't have resulted in a ban. The idea that dead naming is a thing that needs to be talked about is completely wrong. It's ludicrous. Nobody cares. It's sort of like racial language. No little person gives a shit about it. The only people that care are public officials pretending to care to get votes or money, and individuals who are perpetually offended, who they also get upset if you say bless you when they sneeze. So who cares? That should be allowed on sites too. If I get rich enough, I'll go on some uncensored new tech site or make my own site, and I'll have the racially insensitive hour or something like that, just as a joke. Tasty One 2000 and Master Meatball saying hello at almost exactly the same time on Twitch. Trailer Park Boys. Yeah, I don't even know what page has ever been in. Know literally nothing about this actor/actress, nor do I care. I don't care about the lifestyles of the rich and retarded. I don't care if they're woke. I don't care if they're right wing. It's like even like Mel Gibson or something like that. Who cares? Who gives a fucking shit what he says? All I want to see is you're acting in a movie. You produced a movie. Let me see the movie. I don't need to be bombarded with a wall of politics. I have to do it for a living. Sometimes I want to watch something non-political. I guess I can't watch any movie made after the 1990s. I have to watch like Jurassic Park or The Young Frankenstein. It works for me. I'll watch Jaws for the 200th time this year, and I'll be much happier for it. Michael Scott Cutler, watch Tim Pool's video on Highland Park. Yeah, I'll have to check out what he's saying on it. As far as I know, this is my read on it. As far as I know, the Highland Park shooter is nuts. I think that goes without saying. As far as political motive, it's a little bit more difficult because everyone keeps claiming political motives opposite their own politics and using cherry-picked pictures or social media posts that in some cases aren't even real. It's impossible to tell at the moment. The one thing that I will say unequivocally, though, is that the idea that he was a Trump populist, which is being astroturfed by leftoids based on the picture of him with the Trump flag on his shoulders, which I have a feeling he stole from an event, that's ludicrous because I can't think of any single group of people in the world less likely to shoot up a fucking 4th of July parade. But I can see plenty of leftoids online saying fuck the 4th of July and all cops are bastards that might have considered that to be a good idea. Mevius Mar on Twitch says pee pee poo poo. Testing 2741. Shooter is a member of the Sad Boys anarchist collective, which mocks Proud Boys and uses Pepe to that end. Where's their A hoodie? Edgelord. I'm not surprised if he's Antifa, but I want more evidence of it before that happens. Someone needs to compile this shit in a user-friendly format for those of us that don't have hours and hours to dig and would rather analyze the digging. So please do that, everyone. IWD, the Romans were right for seeing actors as worth less than prostitutes and slaves. Oh, I wouldn't say that. Some of them are very talented people, like Keanu Reeves or something like that. It's just that a lot of them are fuckwads. Look at Amber Heard, for an example. A lot of them are poop, or they poop on the bed. By the way, she's trying to get a court to drop the judgment against her by Johnny Depp. I don't see it going anywhere anytime fast. I think the ultimate win would be if Johnny Depp says, fuck the money, go ahead and keep it. Just to add insult to injury, go ahead and keep your money. I made my point. Now that you have no job. Basically, to make her completely reliant upon his mercy, effectively, for the rest of her natural-born days, money-wise. That'd be the ultimate slap in the face. Depp should do that. He doesn't need the money himself. I mean, what's he worth? $100 million or something? And he's got a new movie deal. I think he's going to be paid high 8 figures for that. Douglas Ernst, hey, Sticks, as a gay conservative Catholic, I have been through a lot. Personally, I think the right should be more open to people like me. Thoughts? Well, as a non-right winger, I don't give a shit if you're gay. I'm certainly not a fan of Catholicism, but, you know, you do you. Who cares? Yeah, I do think that it's crazy when the Republicans in Texas try to ban the log cabiners from being part of the official party function. It's like, yeah, the way to tackle the left-wing overstretching is to overstretch way in the other direction and make ourselves look exactly as fucking stupid as the left-wingers. That'll go over well with the voters that we actually need to target. It's a complete lack of political strategy. Republicans are notorious for that. Lately, the Democrats have been doing it somehow even more, and the Republicans, instead of going with the flow and letting them enough rope to hang themselves, insist on doing the same thing. And it's coming mainly from the evangelical quarter of the party. Sebastian Monroe, missed stream due to work. Hope your day is good. That depends on the availability of dinner. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline now. We've gone almost an hour 5 at this point. And that's because I've got to do other things. I want to do a little bit more editing, I think, too. And also, it's kind of cloudy. On cloudy days, I want to watch aquatic movies like Jaws, which I mentioned earlier. I think I have watched it about 200 times this year because modern movies suck ass. Graph on Tyrol, the Bodega Bro incident solidifies my belief that living in a city is extremely overrated. Nice to live in a modestly sized city with groceries. I like small towns. Like even here in Enschede, it's much smaller than like Amsterdam. It's still a little bit on the big side for me. And if we were in like small town like Franeker or something in the Netherlands, that's like the perfect place to be because there's plenty to do, but you don't have to do it. And you don't have to hear a bunch of people doing it all of the time. It's quieter. Although it's fairly quiet in this particular neighborhood, I have no complaints. All right, that's about all. Peace out.